ATM debit card?
No, a bank card is a credit card. An ATM card is a debit card.
Oh, through your bank, right?
Yeah, credit card is usually MasterCard or Visa. This is mine. It's just a credit card that I can charge something on it and revolve it. In other words, pay it off over time. A debit card is a direct debit to your checking account.
So if I get a Visa card from like Citibank or Commerce Bank, is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
I have a question about that. People
Yes.
think that if you use a debit card when it says credit or debit, if you hit credit, that it helps your credit. Is that true or false? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Doesn't do anything with your credit.
It doesn't? Okay.
No. But it does something for us, I mean, as a bank, because we get interchange fees.
Right.
So we like you to hit that credit.
Right.
Because we get a higher interchange fee if you hit the credit button than we do if you hit the debit button.
Oh.
But we still make money if you hit the debit button too. But
But you're not affecting the credit score when you hit credit as opposed to hitting your credit.
yes, I use, this is my debit card, and I usually hit credit. You know, when I buy something at a store, I hit credit because the bank gets a larger interchange fee income if I hit credit than if I put in my PIN number. So, but this is either a credit card. This is either a credit or a debit. It's still a debit card, but it can be a debit transaction or a credit transaction, depending on if I put my PIN in it or don't put my PIN.
But it doesn't affect your practice.
Doesn't affect your FICO score one way or the other.
Okay.
Except to this extent. Now, if you use it on your credit card, and now you've got a credit history, you're helping build your credit history that you have a credit card, you use it, and you pay it off every month, and so that helps you establish your credit. So to that extent, you're better off using the credit than you are the debit, because you're not going to get any bennies out of using your debit card. But you are building credit history, and credit history is a good thing. I mean, to get a good credit score, you have to have good credit history, which means you have to have used credit and use it responsibly, and then you get a good credit score. Yes?
On the bank credit card, like, does it matter whether you use like it to buy candy bars every week or versus like buying a TV? Does it matter like the amount of what you paid back, or is it just the fact that you paid it back every month? That's just making your credit score better.
Well, kind of yes and no. The main answer is no. It doesn't make any difference. That's the primary answer, except to the extent that I was trying to say a while ago is you need to establish your credit and use it responsibly and pay it back. That'll help your credit score. So to the extent that you're using your credit card and paying it off, that's going to be a plus. Now the other, let me say this and we get this. The other thing that for the credit score, if I have 3 credit cards and say I've got $25,000 total credit available to me on those 3 credit cards, and I'm using $20,000 and $22,000 of it all the time, that's a negative because I'm overusing my credit. I'm using it an awful lot. Now, if I don't use it at all, that doesn't help me either. But if I revolve $5,000 or $10,000 on it and pay it back every time, that would probably help my credit score. Yes.
I just had a question. Someone once told me that if you don't always pay the full amount on a credit card occasionally, it's actually better for your credit score. Like once a month you leave, a couple $100 and then pay it off the next month on top of it. Or is that just a? I don't know if I know the real answer to that question, but I would say that's not a good reason to do that. I would never do that, but he's really into financial stuff, and he's pretty. And he always pays it off, but he says sometimes he lets it go, and then.
If you're we call that revolving. If you don't pay off the full balance at the day it's due, we call that revolving your credit. So then you have options under the terms of the credit card. You can pay off so much each month. So that's revolving your credit. But the interest rates on your credit are pretty high, and ours, I always take pride in that. Ours is we have a very low interest rate on our credit cards. We usually have like 8 and 12, 12 for what we call the worst credit scores we have, and then 8 for our really good quality credit scores. But you see some of the the interest rates 18 and 22% on the balance that you revolve. So it's not a good idea to revolve credit just to get a credit score. You're better off to pay it off and save the interest charge.
If you're not paying that off every time, does it count against you, or if you?
I think if you're using, let me give an example. If you had a $10,000 credit card and you only charged $1,000 and you revolved $1,000 and you paid it as you agreed, that could probably help your credit score.
Like
Because
as long
you're-
as you're still making like a little bit more than what your minimum payments are, but you're still paying on it every month.
Yes, you're paying it off every month, and now you're developing credit history.
Okay.
And you're paying it exactly on time every month for a long period of time. That's a good credit history, and that'll help your credit score.
To follow from what she said, I don't always get a minimum. I just pay more, usually, 3 or 4 times more. Is that more helpful as opposed to just being, or is there no difference?
I don't think there's any difference. That's my own opinion. I would, I'm not Fair Isaac, and I don't have their formula, but in my opinion, that wouldn't happen. It's good business. I mean, it's good practice because you're lowering your interest rate. So you don't want to revolve any more than you have to. So I think you're doing the right thing, but I don't think it's helping your credit score. Yes.
How do you get your credit score? And then what was that other company?
Experian.
You get one free every year.
You can go, wait, don't you watch the commercial? Creditreport.com, that stupid commercial on TV all the time? Yeah, you can go online and go to mycreditreport.com. That is your credit score. The government passed a law here about 10 years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. See, they didn't used to make that information public. Even your credit report was not made available to you. And the government passed a law and said, yeah, you got to make that credit report available to the individual. And because there may be credit defects in there that are in error, and they can fix them, and that will help your credit score. And also on your credit score, they say you got to make that credit score available to the individual too. So you can go online without charge and get a copy of your credit report and your credit score. And you ought to do that if you haven't done it. We got a home loan here a couple of years ago, and they got our credit report in the process of making the home loan, and I looked on there, and my wife had about 15 credit cards that she had got. When you go to a department store, they say 10% off if you fill out if you get a credit card. So she was a sucker. She filled out every one of those deals, got her 10 or 15% off, and then she tore up the card and never used it again. But they're still hanging out there on our credit, and we looked at all those things, and some of them we hadn't used in 10 years, but they were still out there on our credit report. So she spent 2 weeks calling all these numbers and trying to cancel those credits, so we didn't have those credit cards or that credit line out there on our credit report.
Is that bad too? I don't know where I heard this, but if you cancel a bunch of cards at one time, if you had like 5 and you went cancel 4, all of a sudden is that bad against your credit score? Have you heard of that?
No, but if you have too many cards, that's why my wife got interested in it. My credit score was higher than hers, and the little message down there was too many credit cards, and that's why her score wasn't as high as mine. Because she put them in her name, she didn't put them in mine. So she had all these credit cards, and they gave her a lower credit score. So she went and canceled all those cards. There was a little competition thing there with me. Yeah.
I was going to say, when you guys have creditreport.com, I actually went on it like a month or 2 ago, and it is free, but I would suggest canceling it when you find out your report, because you have to sign up and put in a credit card, and it will charge you the following month automatically. I mean, it's like a $10.
That's a good comment. I think there are some tricks.
It's hard
Yeah.
if you go to the frequently asked questions, it gives you the number to call, and I just called and canceled it, and they're like, are you sure? I'm like, yes, I want to cancel my subscription, basically is what it is. And so you can get up to 3 free ones a year, but just
They'll try to sell you a bunch of
otherwise
stuff
it's
too.
and
You gotta be
it's
careful.
$10 a month. It's nice, but
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
you wouldn't want to pay for it.
Yeah.
Also, I thought if you checked it, had it checked too often, that reflected that.
No, not this. Now that was the other thing I was going to mention. One of the reasons they score you down is if you have too many credit inquiries, and the law is very careful about what a credit inquiry is and what it isn't. For example, if you're shopping for a car and you go to 4 different dealers, and you start dealing with them, they may pull a credit report on you, to see if you're creditworthy to sell you the car, because they're going to carry that note themselves. They're going to make you the loan instead of us. So there's four credit inquiries, and this is one important thing too. No one can have a credit inquiry into your credit unless you give them permission. So when you go to a car dealer, they'll ask you if they can do a credit inquiry, and you got to be maybe a little careful on how you listen to that. But they're asking you, can we inquire of your credit to make you a loan? And that's a credit inquiry. there are things called